Hey everybody, it's Nick from Android Headlines, and today we're taking the Sony Xperia XZ Premium, the Samsung Galaxy S8, the Google Pixel, and the HTC U11 out for a nighttime stroll downtown for a head-to-head camera shootout. As has been the case for a while now, the latest phones sport some seriously incredible looking camera technology, from the latest sensors with bigger pixels or super slow motion recording to camera software that adds everything and the kitchen sink to the mix. Taking a little downtown stroll at night, the first stop on our trip is to a memorial spot by the amphitheater, featuring some not so well lit benches and a statue. All four phones feature a very different light balance here, both in exposure and color temperature. The Xperia XZ Premium features the warmest hue here, with the Galaxy S8 just slightly less warm. The HTC U11, on the other hand, has a very green tint to it, while the Google Pixel features the closest to the actual scene. Exposure is also very different, with the U11 and the Pixel having the best overall exposure here, while the S8 and the Xperia remain a little on the dark side. The Galaxy S8 has a better balance than the Xperia XZ Premium though, as it has far less blown out highlights on the top of the building and the back than any of the other phones, but the rest of the scene remains a bit dark. The U11 features the best lighting of all four here, illuminating more parts of the photo than the others, but overall detail is a tie between the Galaxy S8 and the HTC U11, as some parts of the photo are a little more detailed on the S8, with the trees and buildings in the background in particular, while the U11 features some additional detail on the statue and other foreground elements. The HTC U11 takes a slight overall edge here when looking at the big picture, but it's a tougher call when you're looking at the smaller things in the shot. Next up is a shot of the courthouse that was in the background behind the previous shot, a building that's only well illuminated at the base and not so much at the top. Color balance is quite different again, with the Pixel being on the very green side of the spectrum and the Xperia being on the very magenta side. Exposure values paint a big difference too, with the Xperia being far underexposed as compared to the other three phones, and the U11 coming out looking great. The U11's higher exposure blows out the lights in the scene just a tad more, but it's nothing that appears to grant it any less detail around those lights. Zooming in shows the biggest difference of all. The Xperia XZ Premium has very little detail here, with a super muddy image that shows all the detail was processed away in an effort to remove noise. It's even really difficult to read the words on the side of the building here, it just doesn't look great. The Google Pixel seems to have crushed the black levels a bit here, and doesn't appear to be all that in focus either. Samsung's Galaxy S8 does a way better job in this shot, with a much better focus and some excellent detail on the building overall. The HTC U11 pulls out in front though, with better exposure, better colors, and better detail, giving clear visibility to the lines in the bricks and the facade of the building as a whole. A definite win for the U11 here. Next up, we'll do a little nighttime selfie with just a single light illuminating the scene here. Again, the color balance is different between all four phones, and although the Galaxy S8 gives off a warmer tone as we've come to expect from the last few shots, the Xperia's front-facing camera seems to trend a little green here. The U11 and Pixel come closer to reality, however the U11 makes my skin a tad more red than it actually is, and the Pixel's image is a tad on the gray side, although the Pixel's colors look a little more accurate than the rest. The Pixel shot is a tad underexposed, while the HTC U11 shot looks fantastic overall. The Pixel has a tad more detail here, looking the highest resolution and the most crisp of the bunch, with the U11 following behind just a slight bit. The Galaxy S8 and Xperia XZ Premium look pretty drab and low resolution overall, with soft images that don't look too good. In the end, it's a tie for the Pixel and the U11, with each having some positive points but none clearly pulling ahead. Next, we'll look at a storefront basking in the shade of a tree under the midnight sun, filled with loads of little details in the window and on the facade of the building. The Xperia XZ Premium shot is a little too warm here, with a distinct red glow, while the Galaxy went a bit of the opposite direction as to probably avoid the orange glow of the streetlight. The Xperia XZ Premium's image is the most underexposed, with some serious shadow detail loss in the darker parts of the shot, and the Galaxy S8 only fares slightly better here. HTC's U11 and Google's Pixel do a much better job in exposure, with the Pixel toning down some of those overblown highlights inside of the store a little bit better, but the U11 ends up grabbing slightly more detail in darker spots as a result of the higher exposure. Zooming into the store reveals a clear loss for the Xperia XZ Premium, as things just look muddy overall and there's quite a bit of detail missing. The Galaxy S8's photo is the sharpest of the bunch, which seems to go in line with the nighttime shots from the phone, as we pointed out in the review, but it's more underexposed than the other ones and loses shadow detail throughout the scene. The Pixel and the U11 present us with the best photos, although the Pixel seems to have some spots that look a bit fuzzy or out of focus, while the combination of brighter exposure and a sharper focus give the U11 the edge once again. Lastly, we'll take a look at a parking lot with some strong backlighting from stores and streetlights and little foreground lighting, especially on the van. The exposure differences up front are pretty stark. The Galaxy S8 and the Xperia XZ Premium definitely fare the worst here, with the Xperia's image ending up darkest of all, both losing lots of little details in the darker parts of the image and in particular in the front. The HTC U11 and the Google Pixel do a way better job here, but the Pixel doesn't feature as many blown out highlights on the buildings in the back where the light sources are the strongest. However, it seems to have a bit more noise in the darker parts of the shot than the HTC U11 does, without that bonus of having more detail, as can be the case sometimes. Zooming in reveals Sony's heavy-handed image processing, which muddies up the details in an effort to remove noise, and in general looks soft and not all that great. Samsung's is actually surprisingly soft here too, which is a bit strange since Samsung's nighttime photography is usually much sharper than their daytime photography. This shot looks a lot more like a daytime shot from the Galaxy S8. In the end, it's tough to call the better shot between the Google Pixel and the HTC U11 again, as the U11 features slightly less noise and more detail in darker areas, while the Google Pixel features more detail on background objects and has better balanced light sources. A tie for these two. At the end of the night, it's pretty clear who the overall winner is. The HTC U11 either took the win or tied for the win in every single test, showing excellent performance at night using that new Ultra Pixel 3 camera. In general, it seems to have better exposure and shadow detail at the expense of some slightly overblown light sources. It does have less noise though, and still equal or more detail than the others here. Still, there's no discounting the low light performance of the Galaxy S8 or Google Pixel, both of which performed admirably and tied in quite a few of these tests. Daytime processing is a very different beast, but it looks like we've got a new low-light champion at this point in 2017. We hope you enjoyed that comparison and will subscribe to us for more in-depth content and reviews. Chat with us on your favorite social media outlet, and don't forget to check out AndroidHeadlines.com for 24/7 tech news coverage. Thanks for watching, and until next time.